For 40 years I told no one, not my wife, not my children, not even my priest, because I knew no one would believe me. But now, at the end of my life, I need to say it. I saw something on that battlefield in 1944, something that wasn't supposed to be there, someone who couldn't have been there. My name is James Edward McCarthy. I was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1925. I grew up in a small apartment with my mother, my father, and two younger sisters. We weren't rich. We weren't poor. We were just American. My father worked at the docks. My mother cleaned houses for wealthy families in Manhattan. Every Sunday, we went to St. Patrick's Church on the corner. I was raised Catholic. I believed in God. I said my prayers. But I never thought about miracles. Miracles were for saints in old books, not for people like me. That all changed in the winter of 1944. I was 19 years old when I was drafted. I remember the day the letter came. My mother cried for hours. My father shook my hand and said, "Come back to us, son." I promised I would. I didn't know if I could keep that promise. Within 3 months, I was on a ship crossing the Atlantic. Within 4 months, I was in Italy. And within 5 months, I was dying. It was December 1944. We were somewhere in the mountains of southern Italy. I don't remember the exact location. The names of those villages all blurred together now. What I remember is the cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and never leaves. We had been marching for days, sleeping in frozen foxholes, eating cold rations. The Germans were everywhere and nowhere. That's what made it terrifying. You never knew when the bullets would come. It happened on a night I will never forget. We were ambushed. One moment, everything was silent. The next, the world exploded. Gunfire, explosion, screaming. I saw my friends fall, one by one. Tommy Richards from Ohio, shot in the chest. Danny Morales from Texas, grenade. I ran. I don't know where I was running to. I just ran. And then I felt it, a sharp burning pain in my side. I looked down and saw blood, my blood. I collapsed into the snow. I don't know how long I lay there. Minutes, hours. It all felt the same. The sounds of battle faded. The screaming stopped. Everything became quiet, too quiet. I remember looking up at the sky. The stars were so bright that night. I thought about my mother. I thought about her smile. I thought about the promise I made to my father. "I'm sorry, Dad. I can't keep it." I closed my eyes, and that's when I saw him. At first, I thought I was dreaming, or maybe I was already dead, because what I saw made no sense. A man was walking toward me, through the snow, through the smoke, through the destruction. He was wearing a brown robe, like a monk. He had a beard, dark eyes, a calm expression. He moved slowly, peacefully, as if there was no war around him, as if the bullets couldn't touch him. I tried to speak, but no words came out. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't respond. He knelt beside me, and he looked into my eyes. I have seen many things in my life. I have looked into the eyes of killers and saints, but I have never seen eyes like his. They were deep, endless, like looking into an ocean that had no bottom. And yet, they were warm. I felt no fear. For the first time in months, I felt peace. He placed his hand on my wound. His touch was gentle, warm, like sunlight on a summer day. He didn't say much, just a few words. In a language I didn't understand, Italian maybe, or Latin. And then he said something I did understand. In perfect English, with a slight accent, he said, "You will leave, you will go home, and you will have a long life." I wanted to ask him who he was. I wanted to ask him how he was here. But before I could speak, everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a military hospital. A nurse was standing over me. She looked shocked. "You're awake," she said. "We didn't think you'd make it." I asked her what happened. She said a patrol found me in the snow, 3 miles from where the ambush happened. 3 miles. I couldn't walk. I was bleeding out. How did I get 3 miles? She didn't have an answer, neither did the doctors. They called it a miracle. I didn't know what to call it. I spent 2 months in that hospital. Every day I thought about the man in the brown robe. Who was he? How did he find me? How did I survive? The doctor said my wound should have killed me. The bullet had hit something vital. I should have bled out in minutes. But when they examined me, the wound was different. Not healed, but not as bad as it should have been. One doctor said it was like someone had slowed down the bleeding, like someone had kept me alive just long enough. They couldn't explain it, and I couldn't tell them about the man, because I knew how it would sound. The war ended in 1945. I went home to Brooklyn. I married a beautiful woman named Rose. We had 3 children. I got a job at a factory. I lived a normal life, but I never forgot that night. I never forgot those eyes. For years, I tried to convince myself it was hallucination, a dream, a trick of a dying mind. But something inside me knew the truth. It was real. He was real. 23 years later, everything changed. It was 1968. I was sitting in my living room watching the evening news. And then I saw a face that made my blood run cold. It was him. The same face, the same beard, the same eyes. The news anchor was talking about a priest in Italy who had just died. They called him Padre Pio. They said he was famous for miracles, healing the sick, reading people's minds, and something else. Something that made my hands shake. They said he could be in 2 places at once. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, thinking. Padre Pio. I had never heard that name before, but I knew that face. I had seen it in the snow, on the worst night of my life. The next morning, I went to the library. I found everything I could about this priest, and what I read changed everything. Padre Pio was born in Italy in 1887. He became a priest when he was young. He spent most of his life in a small monastery in San Giovanni Rotondo. He rarely left. And here's the thing that made my heart stop. During World War II, he never left the monastery. Not once. There are records, witnesses, documents. He was there in that monastery every single day, including December 1944, including the night I was dying in the snow. So how did I see him? How did he kneel beside me, 3,000 miles from his monastery? How did he touch my wound and tell me I would live? I spent years searching for answers. I read books, I talked to priests, I even wrote letters to the Vatican. And I found something that shook me to my core. I wasn't the only one. There were other soldiers, other stories. Men who swore they saw a priest on the battlefield. A man in a brown robe with dark eyes, with wounds on his hands. He appeared to soldiers who were dying. He appeared to pilots whose planes were going down. He appeared in places he couldn't possibly be. And every time, the story was the same. He would speak to them, touch them, calm them, and then he would vanish. They called it bilocation, the ability to be in 2 places at once. The church investigated these claims for decades. Some were dismissed, some couldn't be explained. But hundreds of people, from different countries, different backgrounds, different faiths. They all described the same man. They all described Padre Pio. I traveled to Italy in 1972. I had to see it for myself. I took a plane to Rome, then a train to the south, then a bus to a small town in the mountains, San Giovanni Rotondo, the place where Padre Pio had lived and died. When I arrived, I felt something strange, a heaviness in the air, a sense of presence, like the town itself was still holding on to him. I visited the church where he had prayed for 50 years. I stood in the spot where he had celebrated Mass. I saw the confessional where thousands had confessed their sins to him. And I saw something else. Photographs. Dozens of photographs on the walls. Photographs of soldiers. Soldiers who claimed Padre Pio had appeared to them during the war. I looked at those faces. I saw the same look in their eyes, the same confusion, the same wonder, the same question. How? An old nun approached me. She must have been 80 years old. She looked at me and smiled. You saw him too, didn't you? She said. I didn't answer. I couldn't. She nodded slowly. Many soldiers came here after the war, she said. They all had the same look, the same story. They saw Padre Pio in places he never went. He saved them when he wasn't there. I finally spoke. How is that possible? She looked at me with gentle eyes. Some things are not meant to be understood. They are meant to be believed. I stayed in that town for 3 days. I prayed more than I had prayed in years. I didn't find all the answers I was looking for, but I found peace. The same peace I felt that night in the snow. That was over 50 years ago. I'm 94 years old now. Rosie passed away 10 years ago. My children have children of their own. I've lived the long life he promised me. And now, at the end of it all, I finally understand something. I don't need to explain what happened. I don't need to prove it to anyone. I know what I saw. I know who saved me. And that's enough. Some people will read this and think I'm a crazy old man. Some will say it was trauma, a hallucination, a dying brain playing tricks. Maybe they're right. But I know what I felt when he touched me. I know what I saw in his eyes. And I know that I should have died in that snow in 1944. I didn't. Because someone appeared who shouldn't have been there. Because someone saved me who was 3,000 miles away. Because a priest in a monastery in Italy somehow found a dying soldier in the mountains and told him to live. I don't tell people how to believe. I don't tell them what's real and what's not. But if you ever find yourself in the darkest moment of your life, if you ever feel like there's no way out, remember my story. Remember that sometimes help comes from places we can't explain. Sometimes miracles find us when we least expect them, and sometimes the impossible is the only thing that makes sense. My name is James Edward McCarthy. I was a soldier, a husband, a father, and for one moment on a frozen battlefield in 1944, I met someone who changed everything. I still don't fully understand what happened that night, but I know one thing for certain. I was supposed to die, and I didn't, because he was there, even when he couldn't have been.